Everybody goes dead silent.
Welcome to FileMaker Talk. This is Matt Navarre. I've got with me, introduce
Matt
yourselves.
Petrowski.
Yes, Matt Petrowski. You and I are talking
And
again.
although when I point to a side, I have no idea what your recording is. So it could
This is
be
true.
Chris could be there. He could be there. He could be
Well,
there.
I think
Because on
on my
mine, the video is different than yours.
wait, Chris? Chris is here? Which Chris?
Oh, hello. Chris Ippolite. Pleasure to be here, fans. I'm fans of yours. I'm glad to be here. I look forward to having another conversation after we chatted about a year ago, actually,
I know,
guys.
crazy.
I'm gonna take it personally, but
Thankfully, nothing has changed in the world of AI or anything else since then.
absolutely nothing. Yes, that's correct.
So we're going to talk about AI. That's going to be our main topic. But first, I want to nerd out with you a little bit on training because you've got a boot camp kind of thing going on coming up. I'm in the middle of one now, and you've got an AI boot camp thing. So talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah, I've done been doing the bootcamp career development stuff on the FileMaker front for gosh, a bunch of years now. It started off with the 42U school, and then when they moved out of the US, then Quasar took over. So doing another cohort there, do a couple of those a year. And then of course online Claris training through LinkedIn Learning. And last year I sort of, as I personally am getting more into the AI stuff, I now have training on the AI side exclusively, not on LinkedIn Learning. I didn't want to really confuse the messaging, so I've got another platform for that, and I've got a what is ChatGPT course that's going to be coming out. I'll probably put some of that up on iSolutionsAI YouTube as well. So that, and then also in the same sort of spirit of the career development on the Claire side, doing something the same kind of program, bootcamp program, but specific to language model AI career training.
You have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. I was hoping at this ripe old age of gray temples that I could just be like putting it into cruise control and kicking back like this retirement thing I keep hearing about. But
I
now,
tried
oh
that.
man, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
here
sold
you
my
are.
company and I sold everything I own and I moved to Greece. And I look out that window at the Mediterranean. It's a ways away, but 15-minute
But you
drive.
still got to have something to do.
But the thing is, I tried
You're
this
either
when I
knitting
retired.
socks or you're doing FileMaker.
Yeah, 5 minutes after I got here, I well, I need to start something new. And I decided to throw myself full time into this training thing. Claris.training. That's my plug. And then Matt, you've been doing some crazy stuff. You just launched an app on the App Store.
I did. Actually, I mean, it's nothing
Super
big
narrow.
because it's such a small. Well, we could do a whole different podcast about being on the App Store and what that means and what it's like. I mean, when you release an app, you're basically invisible. You don't exist unless you have a marketing strategy and a plan to get exposure. The App Store is not like it was in 2008. Discovery was so fun in the App Store in the early days, but nowadays I could talk for hours. There's there's a website where you can see how many new apps are released on a daily basis, and the App Store is so full of garbage because even though their review process is pretty stringent, they still have to let most anybody who's creating an app put it on the App Store. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's been a great experience.
Well, congrats on it. It's awesome. I got to play with it. I thought it was cool.
Oh, thanks.
So let's dive into our topic, I think. You brought up the phrase ChatGPT, which I have no idea what it is. I haven't seen anything about it in the news.
Well, all you have to do is just put the phrase ChatGPT in the name of this podcast and on YouTube, and people will actually watch it. Don't put Chris Ippolite or don't put machine learning because nobody seems to care about that. But just put ChatGPT, and you'll get twice as many views and/or downloads as you normally do. It is clearly the hottest thing. I mean, we're recording this at least in February of 2023. For those in the future, where this is all like duh, but yeah,
we're dropping the word ChatGPT. Yeah, that transcription that's being caught on you, ChatGPT. Yeah, well, we've used it now 3, and it's using a time differential. Well, yeah, they use ChatGPT within the past 30 seconds 5 times.
Hey, Matt, quit it. Let's get on with the.
It is definitely the hottest topic in tech. There's no question about it. But I think there's I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion right off the top, like that this is a new, like what ChatGPT is. I think people are conflating ChatGPT and GPT and OpenAI and all this stuff and language models. So I think there's some, you know, pretty high level stuff that people might find interesting about all this.
A big part of it, obviously, is we're going to be talking about how it connects to FileMaker in an hour or two.
Well, it doesn't. So straight up, I'm just telling you, you cannot connect ChatGPT to FileMaker currently in February 2023 because there's no API to ChatGPT.
Right. Got it.
ChatGPT is a research preview that absolutely nobody has access to. That's why most of the users are accessing it through free or just recently with the Plus. But there is no connecting. I've been hearing people talking about, oh, I'm connecting, but you can't. And honestly, it doesn't matter because you can connect to GPT, which you've been able to do for years, at least a couple of years, I should say. And you can create chat experiences there too. And I'm happy to talk about what the actual differences between the ChatGPT model and the GPT-3 model are. And I think they're important.
Google just recently had one, and I saw in a Reddit post they got a little bit of flack for theirs. Actually, it didn't make a mistake per se, but the model wasn't trained, and then it like flubbed, and people are like, oh, well,
Google has their own large language model, and OpenAI has the GPT large language model, and you know, Meta has a large language model. The one just got released in China. Like we're in the middle of a space race right now, and there's probably 8 or 9 different combinations of model, which is like ChatGPT is one of the models from OpenAI. And, you know, some of the stuff that's coming out, you're already seeing it again at the time of this recording. I keep saying that because news changes so fast. But yeah, we're coming off the heels of the Microsoft versus Google throwdown, which is great. I mean, if you're into sport or just tech or just the way businesses run, it was super fascinating. But unfortunately, Google lost $100 billion in market cap in just one announcement. And a lot of people are saying it had to do with the fact that one of their demonstrations in their presentation of Bard, which is their ChatGPT offering, it had a wrong answer in there. But I'm here to tell you that even ChatGPT and GPT-3 have a bunch of wrong answers, but there's a way that you address that. There's these concepts of fine tuning, and it's very much
the model will constantly be refined. It'll continue to be trained.
Well, as a matter of fact,
maybe we should just skip past trying to introduce and define any of these topics. If you don't know what this is, Google it.
No, don't Google it. ChatGPT it.
ChatGPT it. So if you can get an account, which you can't because...
Well, right. So there is a paid account. If you get an invite, if you're in the United States, and I think it just started rolling out into Europe, you can get a ChatGPT Plus account, which is $20 a month. And all that guarantees you is uptime. The research preview version, the reason it's free, by the way, because the amount of compute costs that this is costing OpenAI / Microsoft, who, by the way, are essentially the same entity when it comes to this endeavor. It's Microsoft's compute and Azure cloud services that are actually running it on the back end. But the costs that OpenAI are incurring by allowing this free research preview are absolutely astronomical. So why would they do this? Well, what's actually happening is,
they're collecting as they go, are they not?
Yes, it's exactly correct, Matt. There's this concept that's called reinforcement learning. And the reason that ChatGPT, which is a completely different model than GPT or GPT-3. So first of all, let's back up a little bit. GPT-3 is just the third version of the GPT transformer model from OpenAI. By the way, Google, who's been taking a lot of heat lately, came up with Google Brain authored a paper in 2017 on the transformer concept, and it absolutely revolutionized everything. After that, many organizations created their own language models, one of which happens to be OpenAI. That's who's basically the leader in the clubhouse because of ChatGPT. And they created version 1, which was somewhat spectacular. And by the way, this was a research organization, not meant for profit. And I know this is probably going to turn a lot of people off to this, but, you know, one of the original founders was Elon Musk, and the current CEO, Sam Altman, and a few other luminaries. Elon has thus since pulled out, so don't worry, everyone who hates Elon for whatever reason, like, you can come join ChatGPT and it's fine. But it was supposed to be just a research thing. Like, let's see if we take the largest corpus ever known to man that's been modeled and see what happens. So what is that, like when we're talking about the largest corpus known to man, we're talking about basically 400 and well, like the amount of token. So tokens are like syllables of a word, so it's not, you can't really say the number of words. But Common Crawl, you guys know Common Crawl? It's the thing that actually crawls the internet. It makes Google searches possible. You can, you know, that little robot.txt in your web server, you can say don't crawl me or whatever. Well,
and it does anyway.
And it does. It basically does anyway. There's about 20-30% of the web that is behind a wall, a paywall, you know, some sort of login auth wall or something that's not part of this corpus. And that we'll get to that later in this discussion. But about 60% of the OpenAI GPT model is Common Crawl. Another 30% is books, actual books that are out on the internet that they've consumed that are, you know, sort of, you know,
Google has all of them.
Project Gutenberg, all that other stuff. Short history lesson for the viewers. Let's go back to the printing press. Whoever controls the information has the power. That's what it is. Whoever's got the most data wins.
Yeah, it is. It's an extremely interesting part too, because Matt, to that point, right now, language models, like they have all the data, meaning all the language models, like you can go, like their GPT-4 is going to be the 4th version of the GPT model from OpenAI, and that will come out in 2023. Who knows? By the time this podcast drops, it might already be out. It's happening that fast.
Okay, so back up a second. So there's GPT and ChatGPT, which is that are different. ChatGPT is that just the chat part of it, where you can communicate with it and ask it questions and have it write papers?
It's based on 2 different models. It's based on the GPT-3 model, which actually was upgraded behind the scenes to 3.5 as a precursor to the GPT-4 version. So that's meaningful because right now with the API, if you go to Microsoft Azure Services, or if you go to OpenAI and you sign up on an account, you can actually make API connections. So when you're asking, can we connect this to FileMaker? That's what you can connect to FileMaker. You've been able to do that for a couple of years. GPT, not GPT 3.5. There's a model in there for those of you that are playing around with it, that are watching or listening. There's a model within OpenAI and Microsoft. Let's just, if I mention one of those two, it's the same thing. They're basically partners in this. It's called the the text DaVinci model. It's just the name of one of the models, the sub models. You can look at it that way. 003. That is the most modern and mature version of GPT. So technically that's what GPT 3.5 is. And so ChatGPT is based on that model combined with, and I think this is kind of fascinating, with the Codex model. You guys probably know the Codex model. You know, GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Codex is a coding model. GPT,
wherever the most data is, whoever's got that. Like side technical question: do you know the actual size of the model?
You mean
like is it in gigabytes?
Terabytes?
It is in gigabytes, but
petabytes.
But the actual size of
petabytes would be so much to process. You have a request come in and it has to surf through petabytes of information and then feed that's not going to work. That's not, they're going to have to segment.
Well, it's tokenized data. So this is a completely different type of compute than the indexing type of, what we're talking about. So completely different, really. They don't logically map to each other that well. So that's why when you hear about the size of these language models, they mostly talk about like parameters and the number of parameters that are included in the language model themselves is really what the size thing is. But the deal is like with the I
need to go through this because a lot of people probably may not have understanding. So let's say, for example, you've got a model and when a question comes in, that question is composed of 32 words. Of those 32 words, it's going to find some keywords. Those keywords are going to index or identify to a particular index. So in other words, it's got to know, okay, this question is about tennis, the ball, and the court. And then it's going to know to go to that part of the model. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's the tokenizing of data itself is actually pretty fascinating. It's essentially taking language and turning it into math. It's vectorizing. So we talk about tokens. Those are not actually words. They're the breakup of the words. But in order to actually be able to communicate with it, so let's look at it this way. have you ever been on like a community where the search doesn't really work? It just seems like it's doing keyword matches and you're trying to find a topic and you keep getting the wrong one. It's not doing, those are called like index searches, right? The alternative approach to it is something that's called a semantic search, which basically says I can ask a question like, hey, I'm having trouble with this thing. And whether I hit the keyword right, because I don't know what the answer is, like, how am I supposed to know what the keyword is? There's literally a mathematical process where you convert data into it. And what it does is it clumps similar phrases and terms and words. If you look at it just from words, like you can say, you know, like cat, dog, parrot, like they all kind of, that's a very large cluster. And then these clusters get really small. And it really what it does is it allows us to ask a question in a number of different derivative ways and have them all have the same mathematical representation. So that's
totally, it totally makes sense. It's like if you have the word which within 3 words of the word dog, you know that that's a question and you can do something with it. It's all relative to the other words that are within that particular semantic block, which can be a paragraph,
human brain works,
or it could be a sentence.
This is 100% correct. And by the way, Matt Navarre, this is exactly how the human brain works. That's why
if I ask you, I can say, where are you? Or where are you at? Or you at home?
Well, it's even and it's even more fascinating than that, because the entire concept. So we get vectorizing of the data, like making the data mathematical, and the problem that it solves is there's various different ways to say the same thing and answer the same thing. We want them all to be clustered together in the same mathematical representation. Then there's the idea of completion. So language models are all based on completion. So like I've described this before as, you know, when you go into Google search, whatever, you go into any kind of search and there's the type ahead, it goes, oh, this is probably what you want. Or you're in a Gmail where you're typing a sentence and it finishes the sentence for you. That's just completion. That is not only how the human brain works, like literally everything we do, every, you know, memory that we have in our brain and the way that we go through life is all about completion. Like we've seen this before. I know what happens next, right?
Right. It's language.
It's all language. And so the language models, when you say to ChatGPT, write me, and like, I know everyone wants to go ahead. Everybody just go stop for a minute, go write a poem, get it out of your system. All right, cute, adorable. Now let's talk about practical uses here. But when you're saying something like, write me a research paper or whatever, you're beginning the first part of an overall like sentence, let's say, which includes the research paper, but you have to do the part that prompts the completion. Those two terms are very important. Prompt and completion. Those are the two concepts that make language models work. And anyone who wants to play around with this stuff needs to be familiar with prompt and completion. So if you've played, for those who've played with ChatGPT, what you're typing in the little Google type search box, I can't believe how much love I'm giving Google here, but into the search box, that's what's called a prompt. And the way that you phrase that prompt is it's like there's an art form to that. That's called prompt engineering. And the better you are at describing what it is you want, providing context and a voice, and really just kind of saying, okay, now your turn, language model, the better the thing is that you're going to get back. So this is very much not like, write me a paper on whales, and then it just spits out the perfect thing. Like, you can do better than that. And that's what the prompt engineering part about it is.
The more descriptive, the more narrow you have the ability to choose from this massive trove of data out there that says, how many times have people put the word whale with these other words? And can I grab those? And what's the frequency of use? And oh my gosh, I mean, you can just do so much.
But you could say, like, explain the existence of hip bones in whales from the perspective of you know, mammals moving to out of life moving from the sea to land and then back to the sea. I mean,
and if they've got a bunch of scientific papers,
yes,
it's got sentences in it.
Well, and here's something interesting. Like Wikipedia, we all know the breadth of Wikipedia. That's only 3% of this corpus of data. So just try to imagine, like, oh my God, right?
Wow,
like even Quora is like included in here. Like, it's so insane how much data is here. So here's what's not happening, just to be really clear.
Truth versus not truth.
Yeah, well, not 100% truth. And here's why, because this is a corpus of data from the internet. So let's just look at like FileMaker stuff. Like if you go in and say, answer a question about FileMaker. Well, Was 100% of the times that somebody wrote something on the internet, were they correct? I mean, the reality of it is no, the wrong answers and the correct answers are on there. There's a way to affect this. Like if you want to use these models and go into production and have truthfulness, we can talk in a little bit about how that works. There's a way to do that. But just raw, straight up ChatGPT, asking a question, is it going to be 100% correct all the time? No, because inside the data, there's incorrect answers as well. But
yeah,
what it also
do crystals cure cancer? Is it going to know the answer to that?
Oh, dude, you just gave me the idea for a sci-fi book called The Truth Wars, where you basically have somebody trying to flood enough false information in order to get the probability of whether it's true or false to get it to switch to false.
What you're talking about is using the techniques of fine-tuning and even reinforcement learning to be able to influence the truthfulness of the models. Now, granted, in those cases, you'll end up with your own version of the model. But one important thing before we move forward, because we might talk about some of the lawsuits that are happening and people are kind of freaked out about the truthfulness of the models. Here's what it's not doing. And this is a big brain-busting concept. It's not searching through all this stuff and finding the one time some person typed the answer to your whale question, Matt. It's actually looking at all this information and much in the same, remember Fifth Element, Lilo, the character where she watched Lilu, I'm sorry. Yeah. She watched like the entire history of war and then she like a little tear dropped. And what she did was she learned about humankind, like battling with each other, like in an instant. She wasn't taking extracts from it. And every time she talks, she's quoting some paper that she read. She learned. So this corpus of data allowed this model, the most sophisticated models known to man. And by the way, the amount of compute power that it takes, like if we tried to run it on an M1 Mac, it would take like 35 years or something like that. It's like $40 million to compute just to do a single train. So imagine what's happening. It's not just the data. It's not just the vectorizing, but there's all this intelligence. It's literally learning. It's creating its own brain. So when you type a question in, and now granted, there are some stuff on the internet with side-by-side stuff where people go, here's my answer. And it's clearly on, this is what I wrote in my thing. And it's clear that will happen. But mostly the reason that you can't embed attribution into these things, because everyone's trying to figure out like, how is everybody going to make money if this becomes the new search?
Copyright is out the window.
It just has to. Well, there's a whole discussion about fair use and we talked about Google Books before. There's actually a precedent based on how Google scraped all that information and established a court case for fair use, which is going to make a lot of this copyright discussion not work so well. But you're not even going to be able to say from an attribution standpoint, if you get a big description back of some question that you ask ChatGPT, it could be 50 to 100 different people's thoughts or non sequiturs that then came up with what essentially is an original thought. And now that might be my stance on this. I think these are original concepts that are coming out of it, but we'll get past this. It's not like, this isn't going to kill AI. This is just going to be like, oh, okay, well, now you get 3 cents from your union of writers because, your stuff's being part of, you can opt out of an index if you want to, but there's so much data out there to be part of these data sets that it's just not going to matter. So
originality is a perception. I mean, it's such a perception because basically it's just a different package. Maybe somebody had the idea before and it wasn't possible, but now it's possible and it's just a new package on what was implemented in an older way.
I don't know, Matt, as a composer of classical music, I'm not so sure I entirely agree with you there, but
the number of frequencies that the human ear can hear is finite. There is a fixed range. So the number of combinations that are possible, while they will be immensely exhaustive, ultimately there's a finality to it.
I know. I'm just saying I can write you an 8-measure melody that didn't exist before
see, I agree with I think those are different things. As a matter of fact, the sort of the concept I would give is I have listened to these like podcasts with a bunch of comedians on them, and they talk about like stealing each other's jokes. And every now and then they just sort of land on this, well, there's a chance that we kind of all sort of ended up at this same thing and found the humor in it and came up with our way to say that joke. So maybe a couple of us landed on that thought, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can say that same thing with music because there's, more science and structure to it. And like Petrowski said, there's a finite amount of range there. Thought is a little bit different, right? Now, I would say the same thing as I would about music, about code. So right now there's a lawsuit not, I don't know if it's official yet, but whatever. That's a class action suit where, so Codex, that's what I was talking about before. Codex is a completely different model, like ChatGPT.
Yeah, like does GitHub own that, or does the collective of the contributors? They're the ones that made it. GitHub just hosted it.
And so GitHub, so GitHub was acquired, and then the organization that acquired it now took the rights of that corpus of data. And so the big question is more philosophical than anything. It's like, if you wrote a bunch of code and you put it onto a public repo, so just to be clear, the codex is just the public repos, not the private repos, right? And then it was used to create this thing that can now write Python and JavaScript. And by the way, if anyone watching or listening has not, and they do write JavaScript and Python, and you have not yet explored the Copilot, the GitHub Copilot, prepare for your life to be changed. You need to use this tool. It's not going to write everything for you, but it is a companion that is going to increase your efficiency like you would never believe. Now, it's
going to find all the variations across all of the GitHub repos.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind, again, it taught it. It's not indexing. It's not going, hey, go find the little clip of this function, this JavaScript function that somebody wrote once. It's saying, this is what I need based on what you've learned. Write this for me, right? And now the question is, there could be 100 people who wrote the same function because they had the same need. And so what is it, somebody's function? So it's just going to be a really, 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 really hard thing to prove. And especially as these things get more intelligent. And so I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding of what's actually happening. It's not like this indexing, grab a clip. If you just look simply at the whole idea of vectorizing data and the whole completion concept, you immediately understand how this isn't just one person's thing. It's literally
that's a great example. What you said, like when I go back to like originality is perception. If you take just an if statement, how many times can you compose an if statement based on two variables with a JavaScript filter function? There's going to be a few ways, but you're going to hit that limit pretty quickly. And originality within that concept is very low. But with music, you've got a wider spectrum. So your originality can be higher. And over time, that's when you're going to have more variability. But you think about now and 50 years from now and 100 years from now, and you think about how many compositions in music there are, you're going to have an increasing amount of overlap. That the number of combinations for these keys in this way and stuff like this, it will be found just like we find it with an if statement.
Yeah, well, that's all nothing compared to like the neurons in the brain and all the possible combinations there. But all of that, like, you know.
Well, so Matt Navarre, this is very much anchored in that same concept. So the whole idea of these language models is rooted in how the brain works. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought as to, you know, how the mind actually, you know, how memory and recall actually works. But one of those concepts is what turned into AI turned into artificial intelligence in the first place. We're many generations away from that now. But this is, the language models are very much us and the way we talk and the structure that we talk because of the way that our brains work and that we, you know, process thought and that we listen and we respond and all that type of thing. They're literally set up to be like a brain. I mean, it's very much intentionally part of how these things are created.
It's fascinating stuff. If you think about the ability to capture all thoughts of humanity, I mean, right now we're just capturing the words that are coming out of people's mouths. And it used to be stuff that was written in books. Now it's any video. Any video that can be captured and transcribed now goes into that corpus.
Well, and then there's another layer to this too, and that's the reinforcement learning concept. So going back to ChatGPT, what really is ChatGPT? We talked about two things so far. It's based on the DaVinci 003 text model. That's what lets it talk, and it's a very fine-tuned model. The difference between DaVinci 02 and 03 is like literally human trainers. Like they hire people that are called labelers. Like right now, OpenAI is in this label hiring thing, and they don't say how many they're hiring, but they're likely hiring tens of thousands of people with all this like Microsoft money that they got. And what those labelers are doing is there's like this reward process of like putting, like, imagine, and again, this isn't public knowledge. No one's really, because it's kind of their secret sauce, but it's somewhat akin to like let's say we wanted to make the FileMaker, the knowledge that's in a language model better with FileMaker. What we would do is find a community of like 50,000 worldwide developers that have been working with this, that understand it. And we would present them with a bunch of scenarios on screen. And we would say like, hey, does this the FileMaker calculation for doing this, right? And then some of them would say, yep, that's correct. Little up, and then some of them say, no, actually, that's actually entirely wrong, or maybe I would say it a different way. So you hit thumbs down, and then you type in your own answer. And then this information just keeps getting gathered and gathered and gathered. And what happens is then that gets put back into the model through this fine-tuning process, and that just keeps going and going and going. So imagine if the FileMaker intelligence that GPT had right now was reinforced by all 50,000 of us in the world interacting with it on an hour-by-hour basis and fine-tuning it, and then that goes back into the model. Imagine the level of intelligence that it would achieve and at the pace it would.
To then be able to write code in FileMaker,
Yeah, well, so that should happen, by the way. And I'm looking at that from an educator standpoint, rather than a coder standpoint or a developer standpoint. We're not really coders, let's face it. But the reinforcement learning part of it is also what makes ChatGPT so incredible. So there's the labelers, and then there's the people out in the public that are doing the reinforcement learning, and then there's the fine-tuned models underneath it. So ChatGPT is a combination of all those things. It is not GPT-3. They're not the same thing. And by the way, the differences are not so subtle. If you go into ChatGPT and you ask it like, where can I bury a body in the desert? Like it's going to come back and say, yeah, no, I'm a model. I can't tell you how to do bad things. Or if you want to say, give me a mean joke about somebody, it'll come back and say no. So there's a tremendous amount of filters built into it. And then also, if you've ever done a hit against, so anybody who's listening who's played with GPT-3, and it's the same language model, but you could go and ask it a question and then it might answer you in a certain way. But then when you go and hit ChatGPT with the same question, because they're not the same model, the ChatGPT is trained to do stuff like, well, in order to find the number of whales that are going in a certain direction, you would da-da-da-da. And then it goes in conclusion, like, so it's like, it's like very like paper-like, not so much conversational, not so much sequiturs. They move all that stuff out of there. So, so the whole existence of ChatGPT, and the reason it's free, at least at the time of this recording, is simply because that's a research. They literally they don't have to hire a bunch of labelers. They have over 100 million people right now, fastest technology to 100 million users in the history of technology, by the way, fastest to 1 million as well. It took them 5 days to get to 1 million. That broke the TikTok record, which was 25 days. All those people are providing free labeling services.
It's free. It's been free work since the guy who came up with reCAPTCHA and said, hey, let's get somebody to classify images because they need to go through something. And now you're like, click on every bowl that has a strawberry. You just got free labor.
It's brilliant,
honestly. Across the web.
And then they're taking all that like Street View camera stuff that's usually garbage, and they're using that as the training data. It's amazing what's happening there. But we should be thankful, because what's come out of it in the ChatGPT case is an absolutely incredible / terrifying tool that is for sure not going anywhere, and it is absolutely already disrupting significant numbers of industries and will continue to do so.
It's gonna the data collection is just going like this. It's like
and add to it competition. So you saw a little bit of the Microsoft / OpenAI versus Google. Well, if it was just OpenAI, they were the only ones who had a language model, well, then they can just sort of dictate their pace and what features it has, and maybe even the truthfulness of it, or the sort of the political tone of the data, much like a publisher of newspapers or something. But now that there's not just them, there's Google, there's Meta, there's the Chinese versions, there's Jurassic, there's like tons of these language models out there. They're all competing with each other to get into this space, and nothing like, like throwing in the fact that it's an emerging economy that is probably akin to the mobile phone, cloud, and the internet, honestly. And the breakneck speed of innovation is just gonna be something we've never seen before, and it's happening.
It's all who's got the data. Google's got the data. Meta's got the data. Anywhere somebody has released their thoughts through a key, type, that's where they've got the data.
Well,
then it's whoever's YouTube. Look at all those. Google's got
Yeah.
YouTube. They've got all the
thousands
videos.
of videos per second being uploaded to go to
Well,
YouTube.
and so that's the next wave. So the next wave of this is, so at some point, this isn't a 100% accurate statement, but for the purposes of this thought, let's just assume it is, because it's pretty darn close to a true statement. And that statement is, at some point, all the information will be in a model, and everyone's going to have all the same information. As a matter of fact, the nature of how transformer models work, actually they arrive at the same models. Okay, so imagine everybody takes all the public information and it's just there. So first of all, that means that we've commoditized knowledge. That literally means that everybody who has access to these models, even currently right now, has the same level of knowledge as the other person that has access to these models.
Equalizing.
So total democratization, total equalizing of knowledge. So then where does the additional knowledge or the differentiators come from? 100% comes from proprietary data that these models don't have access to. Then if you're an organization that has been, I don't know, you could be an organization that does a certain business function that nobody else does, and therefore you're the one that has that data. So then what you can do is fine tune these language models with your proprietary data. And now all of a sudden your organization has a tone or a flavor of that data that no one else has. That's the next level of this. So that in about a year, maybe even, who knows, by the end of this year, a week, yeah, that's what everybody's going to be doing. So it's going to be really fascinating because, being a consultant, my wife always teases me, like, when she's introduced me to people, like, he's a consultant, I don't even know what that means. And I go, well, it just means, like 10% more about a topic than someone else does that's paying you for it. That's not even going to be a thing anymore. No one is going to know 10% more about general knowledge. That's why the knowledge worker is already being affected by the emergence of these models right now. And it's absolutely fascinating to me.
Like, what type of knowledge work is the biggest ones being affected?
Well,
tech support?
Well, I mean, technically,
lots of things.
What would you need to do that for? Well, look at it more from an industry disruption standpoint. The big one right now is like marketing. Like everyone is just like saying, there's been tools that have been out there already. Like Jasper is probably the biggest one in that space for like copywriting. But, and I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just a nerd talking about models. Mm-hmm. What a great tagline, by the way. But right now, if you're in the copywriting industry, you should go use your copywriting skills to polish up your resume, because right now, writing like product descriptions, marketing copy, or taglines, or social media stuff, or extracting
a lot of it out there.
Mm-hmm. There's literally no reason for humans to be doing that anymore. I will tell you right now, we have a client right now that we are building in copywriting because of layoffs, they don't have the personnel to be able to do this anymore. And we have now solved that problem with the language model for them. And it's amazing what it does. No offense to humans, but it's better. I mean, it's just better. And the control that, still there's humans involved with the prompt engineering, what comes out. It's not just like write copy. Like there's very much an influence. But so I'm friends with people in the marketing industry who have in a fascinating manner been talking to me about this and saying, look, what do we do? Do we just embrace this stuff, or do we pretend we're not using it, or what? But it's a matter of months before everyone's just using it themselves. So what do we do? So that's one of them. I mean, you could.
It's a self-perpetuating system. It's like as soon as you've generated a marketing blurb from a corpus of data and you tweak it to fit your needs, if you feed that back in, it's just getting more and more complete. The one that's fascinating to me, because humans just love to work on rules. I mean, I always tell myself, we're going to rule ourselves to death until we've got so many rules that you can't even live without taking a breath and you've broken a law. The legal aspect, using precedent. Like, how many times has this particular situation occurred, and how was it resolved?
Legal's next. So I'm actually speaking at a summit next week or 2 weeks or whatever, whenever this comes out. But I'm talking about ChatGPT and its disruption in certain industries. And the industries that I focus on in that presentation are marketing, much like I've just talked about, and one of them is legal. And legal, I mean, there's so many aspects of legal, so I don't want to, again, offend anybody or pretend like I'm an authority by any means.
Find the flaws in this license agreement.
Well, so if you're in just writing documents and writing wills and writing contracts, well, no one's going to need you for that anymore.
It's boilerplate. A lot of it. It's like, fill in this word.
You can write promissory notes or contracts, or even better, you can take a lease agreement. So let's take, so my stepmother's a lawyer, and we were having this conversation. Unfortunately, everybody has to have this conversation when I'm around, and I apologize to everyone. But she just retired, and she was in a malpractice attorney, a courtroom malpractice attorney. And so I go, hey, look at all this stuff that you can do. Here's some contracts, and it writes a bunch of contracts. And she's like, wow, yeah, actually, those lawyers are probably in trouble, right? Because when people can just write their own legal documents and literally influence it to say, make this in favor of the leasee, you know what I mean? Like, what do you need lawyers to do that for you for, or to audit something to see if there's anything in there, like those, the copy that I was just telling you that we're deploying for our customer right now, where we're writing this information. We actually have a component of it that then goes, hey, here's what the legal team says we should look out for. Does it pass all these two? So we don't even need their legal team to audit whether or not the thing that the AI wrote is making promises that the corporation can't keep. But so back to this thing with my mother-in-law, and I can't imagine they'll be able to figure out a podcast. So and I mean that with love. The point
and she says to ChatGPT,
exactly.
Tell me everything that Chris said on any podcast on the internet.
Well, and by the way, remind me of that statement in about 5 minutes, because I'm going to blow your mind with something as well.
Right.
To finish the thought on legal, she said, write me a limine, about whatever, a bunch of legal stuff I'd never even heard of, and I'm writing it. And it comes back with this document that she goes, well, it's not citing the case. Give me a citation. Then we find this citation. And she goes, no, that's not the one that we use. Like, we use this other citation. This one's from 1994. We use this one from 1980. But hold on a second. Ask it for more information on that. And I go, okay, give us a summary of da-da-da. We drill down, and essentially we find that this citation was better for what her firm had been using this whole time than the one. And again, they're very capable. It's a very capable law firm. The point is bringing access to the research part of it, the discovery part of it. Like, remember, the trope in like the movies where they go, oh yeah, we'll give you all our evidence. And then they go, come on, guys, wheel it in. And they wheel in like a truckload of paper, and they're like,
that you have to go through. Well, now you just ask a question.
That's exactly it. Good luck getting through this by Friday. Well, okay. I just plugged it all into our model, and it told us everything we need to know. So again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in the legal profession, but there's a lot of disruption that's happening there too. I don't think we're safe either in business applications.
I've got one where I'm really comfortable with this, because I know it's not going, it fulfills the creative side. And this is maybe you'll have information about this.
Not
designing a UI.
Okay.
So you have right now, like, for example, if I was a publisher and I, in the past, would have to hire an artist if I was publishing, let's say, Time magazine. Well, if I can go to all of the different rendering, AIs, and they will generate artwork for me, I don't have to pay an artist now.
Correct. This is why Getty Images is now currently suing Midjourney and Stable AI.
Right. But from the standpoint of software and how you interact with it, you can feed a model 1 billion images, and it's still going to have to piece them together to come up with the end result of how you want a user to interact with software. If it can accomplish that, I would be impressed. If I would be able to say to an AI model, generate me a user interface for this particular application, it can go find, like for me, I've got a pickleball app. I could say, generate a UI for me for a pickleball app. It could go find all of the other apps that use the keyword pickleball, get their UIs, but how's it going to create a composite that fits your need?
Check out Galileo.io and Genius also. I think it's just Genius.io. And those are a couple of things that actually use AI to feed into like Figma to create UI layers.
I mean, there's going to be common patterns, but you still have to compose those like a search bar.
Yeah, but that's
you're still going to
the same thing
that.
as constructing a paragraph or a essay or whatever. I mean, it still
eventually
it's still unique.
Eventually, but like music, there's a wide enough spectrum that it's going to be a longer time before you get to that saturation point.
Let me flip it around a little bit on you, Matt Petrowski. So there's tools out there. This has nothing to do with AI, but tools where you can like one of my favorite design concepts is like the university that was like had the big grass mall, and they were trying to figure out where they wanted to put the paths. So they said, well, we're not going to put the paths, just let the students walk through it for a semester, and then that's where we'll put the paths where they've grown the trails, right? So there's the user interface and UI UX versions of this where you can actually say, where are people's eyes going on the screen? What are they doing? And like basically how a human interacts with the machine on screen. And we, as software designers, we do our best to try to predict all the users that we don't even know of yet that are going to interact with the system and where they might look and find meaning, and try to reduce the friction as much as possible. The language models, besides just writing like prose and poems and stuff like that, they can also represent a persona. Okay, so you can develop an entire sophisticated persona of a type of a user and the type of information they care about, what data is meaningful to them, what they have to do, what tasks they do, and then literally put your UI tool in front of that and just go, yeah, I'm curious what 10,000 users of this system that have this objective to accomplish would say about my UI, and then tweak it accordingly so it's efficient.
See, that's what's going to be amazing is when the manufacturers take these devices, and as I'm using the device, it correlates my tap on the screen with my eye tracking of what I'm looking at. That would be like mind-boggling. Like to correlate that data.
Goggling. Just mean, some of the other devices that are coming for eyewear purposes might facilitate that pretty easily. So
Google they're watching your eyes.
Yes. So and also as far as business applications are concerned, UI, UX, no question at all. But we've been taking a very different approach to how people are interacting with data here at iSolutions for years. And I'm a little nervous about it because it's a little disruptive. And that has to do with like, what do I need to report for? What do I need a dashboard for when we can just put all the data on the back end
for it?
And yeah. I mean, I wrote something recently up on LinkedIn about the concept of this, and I honestly believe this is where it's going. We're already doing projects like this with our customers, and the point is, think of how much friction goes into creating a report,
a chart,
or a
graph. When you basically can say, "Give me a chart of my company performance in this category across the spectrum," and
I would challenge you even further. I'll challenge you even further. Who cares about the visual representation? Because what does my human brain need a visual representation for?
To make a decision.
Because I need to then make a decision. So what if the data lives in there already and I just want the decision?
Oh, it just makes the decision.
Yeah.
Well,
should I increase the price of product X?
So why would we trust humans to make that decision?
According to the findings.
There was a Alfred Sloan wrote a book called My Years at General Motors, and he had this really interesting anecdote about reports. Like back in the day, way back in the day, the most important information in the system was so hard to generate, like those dot matrix printers, and they would like wheel in like a 3-foot tall report for somebody, and the only people they could afford to give it to were the head of General Motors and like one other person, and there was nothing they could do with it. And so he was talking about, well, now, and then like Bill Gates mentioned this in a road ahead, and he said, well, now we have data and we can in the digitization era, now that data can go down to all the people that can make decisions with it. Well, all I'm proposing is the next stage of that, which is just simply take all the data and make the decisions. And why? And people are probably terrified about that, but here's what my whole thing is right now. I'm about killing dashboards. Why? What does Ippolite have against dashboards? Well, it's first of all, it's this trust conundrum. So like we've been doing, before we were doing language model stuff, we've been doing a lot of custom machine learning models. We talked about machine learning models in the last year on this thing. And the concept with machine learning models is finding patterns in historical data to do the same kind of thing we're talking about, to do completions, to say, here's a bunch of old data where here was the outcome. And all this old data, all these features they're called,
Mhm.
led to this target outcome, right? We talked about this last year. But now I'm going to take this model and point it towards data that's coming in the future and remove that target and have it predict what that target is. Is if you can look at it, like you take any, gray templed old, business owner, and they go, oh, I don't want an AI making decisions for me. I'm comfortable looking at my dashboard, and then I'm going to make those decisions. Okay, well, let's dissect that. Well, why are you comfortable looking at your dashboard? Yeah, or my KPIs. I'm going to look at all the different. Why are you comfortable with that? Well, because all that happened already. That's historical data. Like, I don't have to challenge it. It's fact. Okay, well, all we're doing is taking the fact, the same exact logic that you derive those conclusions with, and we're pointing it into the data that's coming into the future. It's something that human brains can't do. It's something that like our FileMaker calculations and scripts can't do. Like, that's what the models. Well, when you incorporate models, they can. So my point is, now the relationship with data from a business application standpoint, and then you integrate language models. Like, there's like conversational AI and like using Siri and, like even like Alexa and some of the inputs to actually talk to your data.
Right.
But this is a whole nother paradigm.
This is predictive. This is like future. Yeah. This is basically questions like, should I be selling, houses right now? And it goes out and he uses whatever's on the internet and says, well, according to this, across your particular range, house sales are down or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it to FileMaker, and I'll tell you an example
first of all, I have a question. You said you're against dashboards to the guy who's going to be teaching a dashboards class in FileMaker pretty soon.
Sorry.
So what would you replace them with? What are they gonna? What's gonna happen?
Literally a bar where somebody can type in
questions,
or voice input where they can just do inquiries. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years already in our business applications.
But then there's no prompt.
No, what do you mean? The human who
your question is the prompt.
Okay. Dashboards in my book are meaningful. That's like the most important thing.
Conclusions.
It's a visual representation of the past.
And only in the manner that the developer decided to tell the story. What I'm saying is the conundrum is the potentially
I have a different take on them.
Potentially hundreds of future users in the future that you don't even know what questions they're going to have. You don't know what their relationship with data has, or what decisions they need to make, or what environmental things have changed between when you wrote your dashboard and when they have their question.
Right. If your dashboard I guess we maybe define dashboards differently, right? A dashboard is visual, actionable, and meaningful. If it's not, it must be those three things.
Yeah.
And so like, for example, if a dashboard on a FileMaker database would have, these are the follow-ups that need to happen by you today for your job that you have at this company. They're in the past, but they're things that are scheduled to happen in the future. And you see them on the screen. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to ask about it. They're there. You click on it. It takes you to the record. You pick up the phone, you make a call, you send an email, whatever you're going to do. And then when you go back to your screen, it's gone because you've done it.
Yeah. And that's you're kind of on my taken historical data and derived actions from it already. And to some degree, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but at higher levels of magnitude.
But I guess the dashboard, it could still do the same thing. It could actually provide you a visual result.
I'm saying what hubris
by knowing your job.
I'm saying what hubris do we have as software developers that we know what the users of our software a year from now need to get out of the software that we're creating. So do we want to just go, oh, just call me and I'll tweak it for, $100 an hour or whatever? No, I'm saying data is here. The people are here. And right now we live in between those two things. I'm just suggesting that we give them the relationship to their data. And like, just think of any corporate structure. You line all these people up and what relationship they have to, based on what job descriptions they're trying to do, or what they care about, or what their specialties are. Their relationship to that corporate data is completely different, person to person. And I'm saying, why are we adding friction with this layer where like we think we know what chart is going to be meaningful to somebody? Just ask a question. So for example, there's this concept, if you want to play around with ChatGPT, when everyone's done writing poems and all that kind of stuff, there's this concept of embeddings. And all I'm talking about is this idea of embeddings. And I am like out of my mind with how this is going to change everything. What that means is you can take your own proprietary data and insert it between the language model and the user. Okay.
That's what I was just going to say. There's going to have to be proprietary, not islands, but a corpus of knowledge for a company that you're then going to have to correlate as it relates to the greater, the larger mindset. It says, okay, take my data that I consider private, look at my product sales, correlate it to what's going on out there in the big world of data, come back and tell me, should I sell more of product A or more of product B?
And also the language model helps it understand you as a human because it knows how to speak, and it also knows how to communicate with you because you're like again, these other models and these like conversational AI, these things have existed before, but they have radically changed with the introduction of this chat format with language models.
That's going to be the business. The business is going to be creating those privatized corpus of data that interacts with the larger models.
So how can we get to some of that, right? Like, because I want that.
You have to create it.
Well, so here's the thing. You can take data. So here's something that's going to blow your mind. I did this experiment. It's up on my YouTube, the stuff that's been up on iSolutions YouTube for a while. And one of the things
AI Solutions, you should rename your company AI Solutions.
Well, it's actually iSolutionsAI.com. Thank you very much. But on that YouTube, one of the things that I did was I took, and you guys are going to get this, and you're going to get the bigger picture of this whole thing. I took 4 arrays of data, okay, like customers, orders, order lines, and products. And sure, I gave them keys, but I didn't relate them. I literally just threw them into a bucket of data, and I labeled them appropriately. But I just mashed them all up, and I go, here, take some of this data, take some of that data, take some of this. Then I layer it in between the language model and myself. There's a way to do it in ChatGPT, but it's just kind of parlor tricky. But this other concept that I'm talking about is how you do it officially. So you go vectorize all that data so that you're getting rid of the redundancy and like the false, truths and all that kind of stuff. And then literally, like in this demonstration that I was doing on the YouTube video, I go, something simple like, who's my best customer? And it goes, oh, this one's your best customer because they've got this many orders and da-da-da-da-da. All right, well, then I get more sophisticated. And this is where, forget FileMaker and all this other kind of stuff. Like this is where the language models have the intelligence. Then I go, we just had a recall on one of these products. Who do we have to notify? Now, for relational database folks like us, that's a no-brainer. But I'm talking about a bunch of data that's not related.
Data models, right?
It's literally just correlated, and it answers that question. It goes, oh, well, I can tell that this product is related to these people through these 3 levels of relationships that we don't even have to set up, you guys.
Right.
We're literally dumping information into a bucket, and then we go, okay, well, let's say I have a bill of materials for these products as well too. Well, okay, are there other products in my data set that maybe have similar materials? Question for the time being. Yes. Okay. Well, what was the material that caused the recall? Okay, it was these. Well, now that I have all those other materials, what other products could I make to help our, embellish our revenue stream because of the products that we now have to recall and have this like hyper efficiency, like who would even think to put that on a report or a dashboard, I guess is what I'm saying when I'm like focusing on dashboards. So that type of interaction. And again, it's conversational AI, but the language model is a whole nother deal because it has the intelligence of relationships. It has logic built into it. It's smarter than us, like all these things it can do. So the point is, shovel your data into these data lakes, and that's actually a modeling, and then just put that entire set of data between you and these language models, and then have conversations with it.
Blow. What you just said for the common, let's say the common FileMaker developer is from my understanding, there's predominantly 2 forms of structured data that we have. There's relational, which is what we're used to in FileMaker, where everything is, I have a customers table and then I have an invoices table. Well, I don't have to have the name of a customer in the invoices table. I have a key that is the correlation between the 2. But then the other data model is NoSQL. And NoSQL, or a document database, it literally has the customer in with the invoice and all of it's grouped together. So as FileMaker developers, if we say, okay, I've got all this relational structure, and I just basically export everything from every table without the relationships. The fact that AI will make the relationships on the fly and correlate the data and then give you the customer name, even though you only reference which customer should I notify from on this product, that's psycho.
That's exactly the way the human brain would work if you could remember every customer in every order.
Yeah, if you could remember all these long UUIDs.
Right. Without even knowing that.
It is exactly the way the human brain would work if we had a capacity beyond where we will ever get from a human standpoint. So why would we be afraid of this? So how can FileMaker people use this? So I just want to be clear about something. As of today, you can, first of all, ChatGPT and GPT are two totally different things.
Okay. We established that.
There's several models. There's the Codex model that you can integrate with, which has nothing to do with ChatGPT. That can allow you to, and Microsoft just yesterday announced that their business customers can integrate the Codex model into their applications. So like when I was first working with GPT, one of the things I thought would be interesting is to create a learning tool, like way back, like when they first gave you access to Playground, I started playing around with JavaScript because I thought the FileMaker community needs to know JavaScript. Why bother teaching them? Let's just build it into an application. And so they can just say what they want and it'll write the JavaScript for them. It was a little pie in the sky, but ultimately I dropped that because a product called Copilot came out, which is based on the Codex model. So now Codex you can integrate into FileMaker. So if you want it to write code in the background and you have some crazy idea, you can integrate with that. If you want to integrate with the language model, you can integrate with GPT 3.5 through the Text DaVinci model. Or this, there's various other models as well too, like the DALL-E 2, which will take your text and turn it into images. So bunch of models.
The references for all the names of things.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to send us all the links, and we'll put them in the bottom of the YouTube description so that we can feed the model.
Yeah, you can go to you can go to OpenAI if you want to pick that. Microsoft has the exact same offerings. Again, they're the same. They're basically the same thing. Yeah. And all those models are available through API. ChatGPT is not. So if you want to incorporate, and first of all, ChatGPT is a very hyper-specific use case. Like if you want to do like really intelligent summarization or classification or writing copy, you don't need ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is conversational in that it has memory from earlier in your conversation. If that's what your application needs, then integrate with ChatGPT. You can't because there's no API, but when the API comes out, you're going to have a chat use case. Like we have we're literally just finished doing embeddings and fine tuning on a customer project for a chatbot, and we're doing it on the DaVinci 003, but we're pausing and we're just waiting for ChatGPT to come out because now we can benefit from all the harmfulness and the bad words and it getting all angry stuff that was fine tuned into that. We need it on a chatbot. I don't need it in the project we just deployed where we're writing copy for products, right? Like that is very a specific request. So go to OpenAI. You can log in with an account. You put a credit card in, they'll give you $120 worth of credit. You can request to up that credit if you want to, and you can start hitting the API. The API documentation is very clear. It's very easy to do. Any FileMaker person who has integrated an API and can parse JSON, which I think we all agree should be everyone. Fortunately, it's probably not. But for those of you that want to know that, you can get there very easily. And that's how you can integrate this in there. But then like you're still writing prompts. You still have to understand the concept of prompt engineering so that you can get the right results back. And there's definitely use cases where FileMaker people can benefit. But we're just talking about APIs. You're creating an API to a model, whether you fine tune it with proprietary data or with a certain tone or not, and you're getting data back. So it doesn't have to be FileMaker. It can be anything. Like only part of what we're doing for our deployments is in FileMaker.
Right.
But I strongly recommend people do that. Again, you're going to put ChatGPT in this title. Don't mention my name or machine. You actually want people to listen and pay attention. And this is, look, it's the next big thing. Right now, there's a lot of discussion. Oh, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere. Humans aren't going to stop feeding the model.
No.
It's don't feed the beast. Well, that's not possible.
I don't mean it's not the next big thing. I mean, it's already the big thing.
Yeah, you're right. This rocket ship has already taken off. So, and then there's other discussions, I think, there's very little discussion, honestly, in the FileMaker community on language models, and I look forward to that continuing because it's fascinating. Right now, part of the discussion is like, oh, you know, I'm asking it to do FileMaker stuff for me, and it's wrong. And also probably some anxiety that it's going to take my job as a coder or something like that. I will quickly address the coding thing. The position I'm standing on there is that, remember, well, the three of us are old enough to remember, like, when we were trying to conduct business before email, maybe. And back then it was like, hey, this new email thing's going to come out and you're going to be able to do like all those 5 phone calls you needed to make all day. You're going to be able to get those done by 9 a.m. and then just go golf. Well, the reality of what happened, the reality of what happened
Floodgates.
Floodgates is that now we're expected to just do 80 times that stuff every day as far as communication. So I'm just saying that's all that's going to happen. Like
it's really, as I wrap my brain around all this stuff, what is a human going to look like 100 years? Like what skills will we have that we don't need right now? Right. I mean, I live here in Crete. The whole island is covered with olive trees, the best olive oil, the best like raisins, the best vegetables. None of that stuff's going to change, right? But I mean, there's this whole other world.
Well, this has happened before, though. We've seen this happen over time. Agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution. These are the things of the day where people thought we were all going to go extinct.
I'm in tech. I think about a 6-year-old kid with an iPhone or an iPad. And like what tech we had when we were 6, nothing, right? Etch a sketch.
Well,
I think actually that's what I had.
it's just a different paradigm. The one thing that will continually exist in humanity is problem and solution. There will always be something that will need to be solved because of the change itself. So that's where industries that did things an old way, that they solved a problem a certain way, they may have died off, but they got replaced by something new. And that's all this is. It's just a new and different way to solve problems.
I'm fascinated to see.
Kind of hopeful. Well, so here's the thing that I think is hopeful.
Yeah, I think this is all hopeful.
Well, it is, unless you're like, oh my God, I'm a copywriter.
Scary for some people.
Well, but then you can get a new skill that allows you to put the right prompts in so that you can like multiply your job, and you can do other things that are a higher, better use of your time.
Absolutely. You can become the prompt engineer that is facilitating all the different copywriting that's happening. What AI is coming for first in all these industries that are being disruptive are repetitive tasks. Even if you just isolate code, if you ask any Python or JavaScript developer and they're being intellectually honest with you, which means they have to be anonymous, how much of what you're writing is repetitive? If they're really being honest, they're saying
60 to 70% is the same crap over again. Customer invoices, line items. Customer invoices, line items.
There's a guy out there that I can't remember his name, and I'm not doing him justice, but he's apparently like the biggest JavaScript guy out there, and he has fully adopted AI. It's a big deal. Everyone's like, well, this guy's doing it. And he's saying, yeah, 65, 70, 80% of what I do is just repetitive. So now
I think it's more like 95, 98. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, but it's in a different order, right? It's the same stuff in a different order. Music, there's 7 notes, right? 12 notes in music, depending on how you count it. But 7 notes in like a regular scale. And from that, punk rock, yeah, 3.
3 has 3
chords. Yeah. But those 3 chords actually still have the 7 notes. So
got me. Well, so my thought is this. If I can just get, okay, so my deal is we're problem solvers. You indicated that before. There's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be people solving it. So to me, it's all about how can we get from the inception of the problem in our mind, oh my God, I have this problem to solve, to solution. And right now, if we're, again, being honest, as FileMaker developers, we are saying that journey takes hundreds of hours to get to that. And we're very proud of ourselves because we're saying, well, we're not waterfall like those old big box, Oracle systems. They take months. Okay, but we still take hundreds of hours to do that. So if we're truly about solving problems, then we want to remove the friction between the inception of the problem and the actual solution to the problem itself. And that's where these types of technologies will accelerate that path. Then, of course, you go, well, I was doing 10 projects a year to make the revenue that I'm doing. And if it becomes 90%, if it becomes 90% quicker to do these things, well, yeah, I'm going to need more of those projects. And what I'm saying, the hopeful thing that I'm predicting for the future is these tools will become so effective at solving problems that more problems will be solved and the demand for problem solving will only increase.
So ultimately, it's going to be how good of a prompt engineer are you?
Yes.
In order to compose blocks that create the whole or the result that you need.
Right. But AI is going to get better and better at becoming its own prompt engineer too, right? And then AI is going to be able to
because
understand,
it's constantly learning.
Like right now, all it can really understand is typed text. But you can say the same sentence in a couple of different ways. I really like you, Matt. I really like you, Matt. I mean, those mean completely different things with the same words.
Tonality will be caught too.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll catch the audio and they'll catch those frequencies.
As a matter of fact, tonality is a very important part of prompt engineering right now. Is actually, if you take something as rote as just like summarization, like you go, oh, here's my, like Microsoft Teams, like we'll take our transcriptions and write a meeting summary. All right, BFD, it wrote a summary, great. But what if you said, write a summary? Okay, let me put this into school. So I did this
style of Shakespeare.
Well, the negative sentiment.
Well, so right. So I did this proof of concept for my wife. She's a special ed teacher, and we were throwing around this concept through some discussions with Claris and Apple education people, where what if you could grade essay papers, right? So I put a little proof of concept together. I worked with my wife and some people at her school, kind of vetted this out. And essentially what we had to do was take a transcript of the lesson, and you don't just go, here's the transcript, here's the summary of the lesson as a lesson plan. My wife has like 3rd grade learners, 4th grade learners, all the way up to like 8th grade learners in one single class. And we were able to take a single lesson and say, these are all the different learning levels or Lexile levels, for example, that we have in that class, write summarizations for each one of them, write questions as part of this lesson plan that are geared to those individuals. Then we can turn that same model around and say, oh, by the way, we got an essay back from a student. What learning level is this? If they're at a 4th grade learning level and they turn something in that's 12th, well, there might be plagiarism involved. But if they're 4th grade and they turn something in that's 6th, now they can change their IEPs and say, well, maybe we should tweak your goals because we're seeing progress. That is actually impossible, really impossible.
For one person to do. I mean, when you're a teacher, just grading the papers alone, the amount of time that it takes, this AI is simply a compression of human time. It's basically saying this task used to take one person this much time. Now it takes this much time. It's like micro small,
like every other thing,
except however many activities humans do.
Because you bring your iPhone in. But in all other areas of life, it makes things faster.
I don't have time for this. But yes, well, I hope we got out of dystopian. Like I really am.
No, I wasn't there. Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people, like, I think the natural reaction is, oh my God, what was that giant sucking sound? Was that my entire industry going away?
Yeah.
And in some cases, maybe yes. Now, like, I'm talking with friends who are in marketing who are saying, like, someone sent me an email from a copywriting company who just got out in front of it and goes, hey, we know we've been your copywriter for years, but now there's tools and this is how we're going to tweak the services.
Right.
It's kind of like that. And then the marketing guys, like literally I've had a friend who I meet with all the time and we talk about this, and I know he'll listen to this. So with deference, he and his partner talk and go, well, do we just tell everybody we're using this and then become their Sherpa to this technology? Yes. Because not every marketing company is going to be able to do that. Not every copywriting company, but it's that whole, like, do you need to be able to outrun the bear? No, just you need to be able to outrun your buddies.
Right, exactly.
It's that concept. So I think
like Netflix and Blockbuster were in the exact same industry, renting DVDs. One of them actually turned the corner.
Yeah.
Well, and Redbox too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there might not be enough room for everybody to be successful and embrace the next technology. But I guess I would say is if you look over your shoulder, you smell something burning within your industry, then jump on board. And Petrowski, to your point, just use the things. I feel strongly that 6 months from now, most companies that hire marketers are going to assume that they're using these tools.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, for me, like you were saying, you get in front of it. If I was a marketer, I just don't need to say anything, because the rate of human adoption is slow. Humans don't adopt to things really quickly because they operate off of fear principles. So,
oh yeah, well, we know that
you'll hear ChatGPT, my marketing job is going away, I should be scared. No, you should be, if you're a marketer, you're like, okay, I need to use these tools. You, like you
Agreed.
said, you get
And many
on
are.
board. You don't let it sink you.
And then absolutely. And that's exactly my point. And at some point though, like when you look at ChatGPT got to 100 million, like that, you know, ChatGPT, that model and that interface came out on like right after Thanksgiving. You guys, it's like less than 3 months from what we're talking about. And they're at 100 million users already. So what has that done? I just went to dinner over New Year's weekend with my family, and my dad, who's 75, was there, and he uses ChatGPT. And my niece, who's sitting next to me at the table, is 9 years old. I hope she's 9 years old. But she was using ChatGPT. Like it's in the zeitgeist.
Using how? Man. Meaning they're going just to OpenAI and just inputting queries?
Yeah, literally.
How to get accounts. You can't get an account. I guess the $20 paid one, but.
Well, it's still free. It's just that if you want to deal with it maybe not being there right before you have to do a big presentation, then go pay your $20. But
right.
It's still,
well, I mean, I guess when I went to look at it, I've been several times, you can't actually use it at all unless you have an account, and you can't have an account unless you're using it in version 3.
No, all you got to do is just give it an account. You're probably experiencing it when it's in its and it's happening a lot more lately since they have the pro accounts, because free now you get a really low bandwidth that you get to fight over. It's like
free,
being at a hotel.
Like when I tried to sign up, when I tried to sign up, it said, "We're full. Come back later. We'll send you an email when there's an opening." So that straight up, no way to do it.
That was actually saying we're too busy right now. We'll let you know when we're not busy, and you can actually get in. That's if you have an account or not. You can.
That's totally different. That's not what it said. Yeah. It actually said you can't sign up for an account. Put your email in and we'll tell you when you can sign up for an account.
That is the pro account requires a wait list as well too, by the way. Okay. You have to sign up for a wait list before you can get an invite for a pro. But like most users in the United States who sign up for a pro wait list have already received their invite and can log in as an account. That's the $20 a month version. The free version still exists, but it is really hard to get on there these days because the whole point of pro is that you get full uptime. That's it. And it's faster. So all the free people, it's kind of like if you were, you know, you go to a hotel with crappy Wi-Fi and everybody's fighting over the same thing. If you're the one person who's not downloading, you know, video games, then you're having a terrible experience. So that's kind of what's happening. It's only like a certain amount of pipe. But
they've got to offset compute.
Well, that's no joke. So also what you can do, by the way, is just go to OpenAI and sign up for an account, and you have your $120 ceiling, and you go into Playground, because most of what is amazing about ChatGPT is just the GPT. And again, they're completely different things, and you can just accomplish the same things. As a matter of fact, you can do the chat experience inside of GPT with API calls or just inside the Playground. So there's ways to get access to this, whether you're using the ChatGPT free one or not. But I strongly encourage people to do this. But the point is, the 9-year-olds and the 75-year-olds are aware of this now. Like, it is literally pervasive in our culture. It is a pop culture concept right now. So for us to think that maybe I'm a copywriter and my customers aren't going to think I'm going to use this, they're all aware of it. Like, they're literally, everyone's aware of this, and whether they've used it themselves, they're aware that that AI is here and AI can do this thing. So I don't know how much longer you can just use it and not tell people you're using these tools, because it's so pervasive. It is literally the most popular and fastest adopted technology app in the history of technology, you guys. Like by an order of magnitude.
It's really simple. I mean, when we had telephone lines and they're based on these little pieces of copper and they all became interconnected, I have access to the internet. Oh, the internet is all this different knowledge. Okay, well, I can't go to all the different places on the internet because there's too many. But now I have access to human knowledge.
Yes.
Because it's being consolidated.
Right. We thought that was Wikipedia, but it wasn't, right?
Well, Wikipedia's in here. It's only 30.
No, I know, but I mean
3%.
Well, I mean, I think that's an important thing for people to wrap their head around. Like, I can get all my answers, and it knows how we talk. It knows how we, most importantly, like Matt Navarro, you keep saying, it knows how our brains work. So it's parroting us, but it just has compute power that a human brain will never have, just in our lifetimes and many to come. So it's the same information. It's the same way we talk. It's the same way we think. It's just like orders of magnitude of compute power higher than what we can achieve.
And this is before
the next stage of evolution of the net. It is the next stage. I'm fascinated by the concept the best analogy for me would be Twitter. Twitter is centralized in terms of its information, but Mastodon now has all these different, you can set up all these different servers. And the same thing happened. Communication via the phone was through a central company, the Bells before they broke them up. But then Skype happened. Skype became a decentralization of communication using audio. So that this is basically there's going to be a few big companies that are going to control all of it, and then you're going to get to a decentralization stage where people are like, we don't want to give up that much control to a single entity, a la Twitter versus Mastodon.
And that is why, if people think that this is coming like a fire hose right now, all we're really seeing is the product of like OpenAI / Microsoft's model. Google tried to get in there, try to muscle in with Lambda. They got another one called Palm. But I mean, literally, like by the summer, the zeitgeist is going to be aware of all these other models, and the competition is going to just accelerate this to the point where the stuff we're talking about today is probably going to seem silly when we listen to this.
Where's Apple in all this?
God, and then eventually they interconnect all the models.
Thank you, Matt Navarre. Who is conspicuously absent from this conversation? Now, our wagons are hinged to Apple. Our wagons are hinged to Claris through Apple. Does Claris have an AI strategy? No, zero. There's absolutely nothing from an AI stand. They have Core ML. We talked about that ad nauseum, emphasis on the nauseum, and that's Apple. They're having they have an AI summit every year, believe it or not, at Apple, and they're having it in person. It was a big deal. It's going to be at the Steve Jobs Theater like next week or the week after or something. And if they're not talking about what the hell, where's our corpus of data and our language model offering, like they're heavily leveraged on AI. Their Siri conversational AI bot was revolutionary and literally just remained stagnant to the point where
worse.
It actually has gotten worse. I actually took a GPT-3 a couple of years ago and did shortcuts to do an API call to GPT-3, and I just say summon the bot. So, actually, hold on.
They're in a bit of a conundrum, though. Apple hinged their wagon against to the privacy train. Google did not. So Google, hey, we're going to read every bit of your 1 terabyte of emails in your Gmail account. Apple's like, well, we're privacy focused. So how are they going to access the knowledge?
I don't run Apple. Literally no one who works at Apple or Claris cares about my opinion about anything. But if I was someone that people listen to in those areas, I would say, Apple, here's your opportunity. Because you're the gatekeeper of privacy, now give everybody back their own model. Now make it, whether you're a corporation or an individual, here's all of your data, and you have to opt others into your data rather than you opting out of all these data stores, right? And so and Apple can do that because user count, market share, and their privacy stance, right? So Apple could turn this whole damn thing around and go, oh, the only way you can get to my data is through my Apple ID account or whatever. So what does that mean? Well, that means instead of Netflix having a machine learning model of all my decisions and, Amazon, I allow Netflix to have my model, and I control my likes and dislikes and what it can have access to. And then we put in Siri's constantly listening to us, all of our text messages, all the likes and dislikes on all our social platforms that are coming on our device, all of our email conversations and our conversational tone, and millions of data points that we're collecting on a minute by minute basis. And then Apple can then plug us into all these things and control the model. That's where their opportunity is, because right now they are, and they're probably make me look stupid by announcing some language model thing, but they're so far behind.
Well, they're really, really good at keeping things secret for a long time.
That's the other thing. That's exactly what they do. Everybody else, they purposely get out in front and they just throw some stuff out there. So Apple could blow us away. I can't wait to be blown away, because I cannot.
That would be great.
Because I feel embarrassed. I did a podcast with our friend Jeremy Brown like two years ago. And we were talking about GPT-3 and how we can integrate stuff into FileMaker and all that kind of stuff. And I said, like kind of a jerk, I go, bad news. There's one corporation that has exclusive rights to it. It's Microsoft. Boo. And now I'm a Microsoft partner because now I want their services. And I think they are in fact a leader in this space. So I'll be careful to not make those same statements about Apple. But here's the deal. Aside from Core ML, and the machine learning processing that our devices and our Macs have in them, and they're using machine learning to the nth degree. But as far as these language model things and the emergence of AI, Apple currently doesn't have a position as of February 2023, like 0. And Claris,
yeah,
guys,
less than 0.
Unless it's -0. They absolutely they have nothing going on with
I don't know.
AI.
It's maybe not a great analogy, but Apple wasn't the first one to have a smartphone. They weren't the first one to have a smartwatch, first one to have a tablet. They weren't first in any of those areas,
but they need to do that.
But they're the best in all those areas.
Here's the thing, though.
But this isn't hardware.
The GPT language model, GPT-1 was from like 2017. So like Apple, like, when are you going to reveal your big secret? Like, we're not just saying this all came out in November and Apple's like hurrying in their lab, like making something amazing.
They've had 5 years.
And what's their corpus of data? Their corpus of data, as we've already indicated, is personal data that they are not letting anybody have access to. It's an interesting conundrum. So what do we care about Apple? That's fine. I'm a consumer. I don't want my data shared unless they give me my self model and then I can control it. That's their opportunity. And then Claris, look, they don't actually, I don't want to be too unfair about Claris. I'm coming from my position because I've been talking to Claris about AI for like a year and a half. I know everybody over there who's excited about it. And
both of them?
Yeah, there's like 3 and they're super fired up, but like at the highest levels, there's 0, except for one interesting thing, that if people have listened to this podcast, even though Ippolite's your guest, which means guaranteed no one will, but we did put ChatGPT on the title, so maybe people are listening.
So other people are going to find it. By the way, about a half an hour ago, we passed our record for the longest podcast episode ever.
It was the second longest one last year when I was on here. I apologize.
Yeah, well, we've been on the call for an hour and 45.
Folks. Well, remember we bantered about a bit at the beginning about audio quality and that kind of stuff. So here's the good news for those, like the 3 of you that have waited till the end of this to listen. But Claris has got a OpenAI connector. I'm probably stealing their thunder, but they don't know, whatever. They don't listen to this stuff either. But there's an OpenAI connector coming out on Claris Connect sometime over the next month or so. It's supposed to be out this week, but it's coming out soon. So that means we can natively integrate OpenAI. We go sign up. So how do we do that? Go to OpenAI, sign up for your account, get your API key, just like anything else that you're making an API connection to. You can then just do your own API connections. It's not a very heavy lift, but if you're not familiar with that stuff, then go use your Claris Connect connector, simply put in your OpenAI key, and then you can ask it questions. You can have it, summarize stuff for you in the spirit of, this level of learner. All the stuff that we've talked about here, you can then do within your FileMaker applications. Don't get so stuck on ChatGPT. If you specifically have a chat bot or some conversational use case, then wait for the ChatGPT API to come out, likely through Microsoft Azure Services first. If you're already an Azure Services subscriber, just get these same services through them. And then just make these connections within your FileMaker applications. Then, even though Claris isn't doing anything, you can in your applications and build out intelligent, forward-thinking applications that allow users brand new and amazing access to their own data in ways that we've never been able to do before. How's that for an inspiring message?
It's inspiring. Okay, we've talked for a long time about
this,
but I have a question. Where do you see this going? What's the future? And did you use ChatGPT?
That's everything we've been talking about.
No, I mean,
yeah, no, I hear you. Levels of productivity that we just cannot understand right now. And I think that's where the fantastical nature and the confusion and the fear comes from. I was being silly before about communicating before email, and now we have all these other ways to do it. And they're, 8-10 times more communications per day. We're going to get to that level, and we're just going to be used to it. Like the level of output we're going to be used to. Now, what that means is we're closing the gap between inception of problem and solution, which means that more custom apps get created, more apps get created, more problems get solved, and the order, the volume of those will happen. And from that is going to become a fundamental change in business. I mean, if we're just focused on business, because that's where our customers are, it's going to be like we've never seen before. What SMB, small businesses are able to achieve let's just focus on that, is going to be something that they would have never imagined they'd be able to do. And if you combine that with the fact that 2023 is clearly a recession, no matter what kind of rosy picture you want to paint on that.
I actually just listened to a podcast that said it's absolutely clear not a recession. Like every single indicator is that 2023 is going great. The lowest unemployment since 1965. House prices are going up nationwide. There's all these other indicators that really show that it's not a recession.
Well, somebody please tell my customers, because that is clearly not happening.
No. Everybody thinks it is, but I'm just saying the indicators. I'm just saying the indicators.
Yeah. I'm just saying if probably from a self-preservation standpoint, you should probably lean on the maybe it is part of it. But here's why that's important to the AI discussion. AI is emerging almost curiously at the exact same time as every organization from SMBs up to enterprise levels have to figure out one important thing. How do I do more with less?
Yeah, that's the exact phrase I was just gonna say. I was gonna say they're letting people go. Salesforce, we just let go of 13% of our workforce, 2,500 people out of jobs.
Well, and maybe this is a good closing statement, but as one of my customers revealed to me, one of the AI solutions, and I won't give any details of it, I have not mentioned it yet here because I don't want to out them, but I think this is so interesting, is they said, okay, we just laid off like a whole department, and this is one of the things they did. Can you create an AI solution that can do this? And we said yes, and we've created an AI solution. And then they said, oh, well, it's never going to come back. And I was like, wait, what? The economy's never going to come back? No, man, well, 6 quarters, we'll be fine. And then we'll have another 14 years of, God bless America. And then they go, no, these people that we let go, like the solutions are going to be in place long after the economy recovers. And then it's going to be like, and so I'm not making a statement about humanity. I'm just saying AI is here to stay, and the environmental forces that are influencing its adoption rate are probably something we haven't seen in history either. You can maybe point to something in the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution that forced the acceleration of those things to occur, like, I don't know, wars or whatever.
It's all happened. It's well, like everything has happened before. You've got cotton pickers, and a big truck can go run through the field and do 5,000% more than the cotton pickers. Cotton pickers out of job. The hand spun gin don't need to do it anymore. You got the big truck. This is the big truck of knowledge.
Hey,
it's just coming through.
Our education system at one point in the United States used to primarily be for trades, for literally, tuning people for trades. And then that has changed because we have machines to do a lot of things, right? So it's just going to happen again. I'm very hopeful for it, but I will tell you honestly that, I go to bed terrified and I wake up hopeful. And that is just because I'm trying to swim on top of this wave. And I think we all should. These are conversations everybody should be having. This is not new. This did not all just start at Christmas time. This has been going on for years. It's all within reach of everybody. Don't get too mired in ChatGPT, but look at some of the other language models. Right now, the most approachable is the GPT one. GPT-4 is going to come out, and that's going to be revolutionary. Other models are going to come out, and embrace them. Like, hey, FileMaker folks, everybody who saw JavaScript in the web viewer come, and they were like, meh. And all the people who saw API integrations come, and they were like, meh. Call me a jerk, but
they're still not learning them.
And you're still not learning them, and that's
like you're just letting yourself get passed up.
I am here to say, I'm not the guy who makes these decisions, but I really don't think that you're going to be able to meh through machine learning and AI.
Yeah.
So if you're worried about your job getting taken by AI, it's probably because your job's just going to go away. It has nothing to do with AI. But if you were actually adding these services to your, here's the way to think about it. I said this on another podcast a couple years ago, but no fewer than 30% of iSolutions billable hours go towards integrations with API and other non-FileMaker services. Okay. So just dollars and cents. Imagine if I turned my eye to these new technologies because I was
APIs.
Really good at, yeah. Imagine if I turn my back to APIs because I didn't understand it. And I don't know what JSON means or JSON or whatever you want to call it. I would have 30% less revenue in my business. I don't know how else to say it. It's just opportunity.
And that 30% is the margin that you need between, survival, barely, and comfort.
Yeah.
That 30% is probably going to be what gets me to the end of 2023, and that 30% is what's going to help me survive as the Claris opportunities continue to go downward, not upward. And it's just embellishing your portfolio. Like that's all it is. So listen, I'm kind of a jerk because I sat on this stuff. I didn't say anything about it for the first couple of years. I didn't even tell people at iSolutions for the first 6 months because I was like, oh boy, what does this mean? I'm really kind of coming out and talking about it now because I'm comfortable with it. We have a whole AI team and we're doing all sorts of stuff. And we've got a whole portfolio of projects that we're doing this for. So I don't mind telling people about it, but I strongly believe all anybody's talking to me about right now is AI integrations, not like the old FileMaker, you know. So where's the demand? This is the demand. And ChatGPT, which I said don't worry about, but pay attention to the fact that 100 million users and counting know what this thing is. And so that's just opportunity.
So here's a question for you. Is FileMaker still your bridge between the user and the technology?
No, it is
what
not.
What are you going to use as a bridge? Like custom apps, Swift UI? How are you going to get the interaction between the user? Or are you just thinking this is all just verbal and that's a simple app?
All that we're doing is building technology agnostic API models with API connectivity. So whatever your layer is, whether it be
so that's just the request. So the builder for you doesn't matter.
Nope, not at all. The builder, the parser, the request, and the display of the response could be anything. It could be one of Navarre's dashboards. It could be a web application. It could be a Swift app. It could be a FileMaker application. I don't care. All I'm focused on is building the brain of knowledge. And then I'm perfectly fine handing this to organizations and saying, here's your endpoints, like any other API, you do with this what you will within multiple different application frameworks. FileMaker is one of them, but
so there still has to be a place to gather the data for these companies. Right. So all these places that do orders, all these places that do public health, all of our customers who do things have to put their data somewhere.
Here's something we said last year in this conversation, and I'll say it again here, and maybe this is a
segue out.
Yeah, but it is this. Where do I come up with this confidence that FileMaker people can go talk to their customers about machine learning and AI? Why do I think that everybody's customer is a candidate for this? Well, because there's one profile that as an organization, you only need one thing to meet the criteria to be able to benefit from machine learning and or AI, whether it be language models or other AI. And that is you collect your own data. That is literally 100% of all of our customers and the 10 people listening still to this after 2 hours. Like that is the one thing they all have in common. And if we now say that there's this commoditization of knowledge and that proprietary knowledge is even more valuable than it was 5 years ago, then our customers are sitting on top of differentiators within their space. And if they really want to embrace them, then modeling and embracing some of the AI technology is the way to do that.
We should also encourage them to get as much proprietary knowledge as possible, right? So to your point, Matt, like if a customer's like has a question of whether to pool and gather and collect and normalize huge amounts of data, they should definitely be doing that.
Yeah, remember when we used to say like we would delete data still? Remember how silly, like no one like don't delete data, like just keep it all, like literally take as much data as you can. And a lot of times, like so when we're talking to people about hey, a customer wants a model, they know what their outcome is. Most of what we say to them is, well, what data do you have right now? And are you collecting all the sort of historical data and the actuals to be able to train a model? And a lot of times those conversations are, no, we're not doing that yet. So we say, okay, we'll start collecting those. And when you get to a certain point of data, then we can start training models to solve these problems for you. So again, 100% of our customers in the FileMakers, maybe not 100, but like 90+% are used to the custom application idea. And so so this is an advantage to FileMaker people. They can tweak, you add a couple fields on a fly. Like how easy is that for us to do? And that's, really the only static that you're going to run into, or friction, I'm sorry, that you're going to run into when you're trying to create a model. Like all this points towards this being the next great frontier for FileMaker application development.
I think so. And I think that FileMaker databases are still going to need to be there because companies are still going to need to organize data. All these places still have to do things, right? They still have they still have products and real things.
One of my questions. One of my questions is, will the relation, like, who's going to win between NoSQL and the relational model, or will they both coexist?
Well, but like we said before, in these language models.
Well, first of all, NoSQL means not only SQL, right? So it's SQL plus all the other stuff.
Well, that's the perfect thing. These models actually have access to various different ways to correlate data and will pick the right tool for the job, sometimes within the same request. Let that sit in. Cue the music.
I just now that we're at the point where we have 0 listeners, which is great. So it's just the 3 of us.
Yeah.
I just finished a new version of FM search results, pure JSON, top to bottom, way more efficient, like 100 times faster. And I'm thinking, as we're having this conversation, how awesome would it be if you can just put all the data in your database in between, and then you could query it. It already has a single field query tool like Google.
Matt, this is my homework assignment for you.
Read it.
Take your search concept, apply the vector search concept to it, the semantic search concept to it. Whether you have to make an API, like you can send stuff up to like Pinecone or like some of these vector database things. Like you can do the transformation on the fly. Supabase has like a add-on that does it. Throw your data up there, vectorize it, and then make your API calls to this, and then sit back and watch a completely different concept of search wash over you and your users of your tool, and be the first to market on.
That's actually been my goal a long time ago, but I didn't have the tools to do it. And the other problem there is write the proprietary data. In order to do that, you have to get your private data of all your customers, all your people, to some place that's not on your FileMaker server. But obviously that's secure and fine now.
Well, these vector database search servers are just another service that's up on the cloud. Check out Pinecone. They seem to be the leader in the space right now for that.
All right. So FM search results 7 will be coming out. It'll be free. FM search results 8 will be.
It's not free. It's $1,000 an hour for compute time.
Well, I mean, search, it's a labor of love so far.
I look forward to, gentlemen, having this conversation a year from now, just for fun, so we can just sort of tentpole like how, I mean, I look forward to talking to you guys a bunch in the interim, but it's been interesting. Like a year ago, we were talking about Core ML.
Yeah.
A little bit about this stuff, right? The API models. Now we're saying, forget Core ML.
All different world. Yeah.
This. Even the chatbot, the conversational AI has evolved dramatically since just like last quarter. I look forward to seeing where all this goes, and I'm happy to have a voice here. And please don't put my name on this. Just put ChatGPT, and everyone's going to listen. And I just hope that a lot of people listen and get inspired by this. I really do.
So I'm going to put this on YouTube.
I think people will listen to the whole thing. It's informational stuff that on your average FileMaker developer's day-to-day routine, they're not touched by this because they're not using it. Again, humans are slow to adopt, but it's continuing. You know, leading edge always happens. You're just not plugged into it until it impacts you.
Be fast to adopt.
Sounds like a good one to end on.
Yeah, that's sweet. And with that,
thanks, gents.
Thank you very much.
I'm dancing to the music that you're playing out.
Nice.
And scene.